Okay, now on to the next crew of Calliphoridae. We're going to be looking at what are commonly known as the blue bottle flies. As you might imagine, these tend to be blue in coloration. So these are the Calliphora species. So these genera tend to be overall blue, and you'll find that most species found in this genus are called some form of the blue bottlefly. This is why it's a big pain in the butt to use common names, because you'll call things the bottlefly or the blue bottlefly, and that could mean any of many different blue species. So Calliphoridae is the first species I want you to know. This is commonly known as the European blue bottlefly, but it's blue, so people call it the blue bottlefly. Now, there are several species that share this common name, blue bottlefly, but C. viciniae tends to be the most widespread because it has worldwide distribution. It is most abundant in the northern half of the country in the United States, so it tends to be a cooler weather fly. We tend to see these blue bottleflies associated with cooler weather, with shade, with things of that nature. Now, it does have a very large head, and it's large in its overall body form. So it ranges from 10 to about 14 millimeters long. The head itself has a black coloration, but the lower part of the cheeks have this orange or reddish color. So it's not this through and through orange like we see in Macellaria or in Omnivorax. Instead, it looks more like somebody painted orange on a black background. Okay, so it's got this red to yellow or orange coloration on its cheeks. The thorax is dark blue, but it's covered with fine hairs and that grayish powder, that pollinose look, which gives it a dusty or a silvery appearance. So you can see sort of a dusty coloration on the fly itself, and if you scrape it away, that dark blue metallic color is underneath. The thorax can have very faint vitti, these faint dark longitudinal stripes, but they're not as obvious as we see on Macellaria. The abdomen has a pronounced metallic blue with patterns of silver on the notum or the tertium and on the sternum. So you can see this pollinose coloration, all these little fine hairs that give us a silver patterning on the abdominal segments. Now, overall, the body appears very bristly. It has these very robust hairs all over that body, so it looks really spiky. Adults are attracted to most types of decaying matter, so we tend to see them on pretty much anything that is decomposing. We see them on rotting fruit, on decaying meats, on feces, but the larvae are primarily found on large carrion. So Vicinia is common on human and other large corpses throughout the US and Europe, and it is most common in the temperate region. So it can handle that cooler weather, unlike some of these warmer weather flies that we saw in Chrysomya or in Cochleomya. It is considered a winter species in the southern region. In more temperate regions, it's a fall and a spring species. And in the subpolar regions, it's become a summer species. So as we go more and more northern, we do see this in those regions. So we do see it in Alaska, up in sort of the frozen regions up there during the summer months. Now, I have seen it a few times in the south here in the winter, but it's not as common as some other species. Now, it does favor shady regions, shady situations, and it often likes urban habitats. So it is the dominant species on carrion in cities in temperate regions. Now, the maggots are a smooth maggot, and look at those little mouth hooks. It can form secondary myiasis in human and animals. So it doesn't seem to feed on living tissue, but it can feed on dead tissue in living animals. Very closely related to Calliphoridae is Calliphora vomitoria. This one's easy to remember because its name is the name for vomit. Now, it is called the Holarctic blue blowfly or the Holarctic blue bottlefly. So this species is very common in the U.S. from Virginia to California and all the way north from Canada upwards through Alaska. So it is a cooler weather fly. On average, it's about 7 to 13 millimeters in length, and it has this very, very dark blue thoracic region. You can see 4 dark vidi on it, 4 dark stripes, but again, not as pronounced as we see in Macellaria or Compsomyopes or something like that. The abdomen is covered in these very, very thin hairs that give it that silvery coloration that we saw in Vicinia. But the abdomen, the base color is this bright metallic blue with that silver overlay. So it's similar in appearance to C. Vicinia, except the head. The head is entirely black. So remember, Vicinia has that orange cheeks. Calliphora doesn't have the cheeks. It's got entirely black hair, or entirely black cheeks, but it does have bright orange hair. So it gives it sort of an orange beard-like look. So if you see an orange beard with black cheeks, you're looking at Vomitoria. You see orange cheeks, then with maybe black hair, you're looking at Vicinia. That's probably the easiest way to tell these two apart, just basic rule of thumb. Now notice it can have this orange prothoracic spherical, which is why you want to be a little careful telling the difference between these and, say, Formia regina in the field, but you'll get used to it once you start keying these out a little bit more. Okay, now overall, the body, just like Vicinia, is very stocky, very bristly, has those very, very robust black hairs. Now, the species is common in wooded rural areas and in suburban areas. So unlike Vicinia, which is an urban species, this tends to be more out in the woods, more in the suburban areas. And it prefers shaded locations. Now, it is a very slow flying species, and it makes a very loud buzzing sound as it flies. So you can notice it pretty easily if you're out in the field and it's buzzing around. All right, the last species of Calliphora that I want you to know is commonly known the blue bottlefly. See how these names are annoying? But this is Calliphora latifrons. Now, this is a more rare species than Vomitoria or Vicinia. It is common from Mexico to Canada. It can be found westward, probably into Wisconsin, into Ontario. We do see it in California a little bit, but it is most common in the Rocky Mountain region from Colorado onward. So it is sort of a high elevation type of fly. Now, the thorax and abdomen are very dark blue. See that there. You can see sort of these very faint, darker stripes on the thoracic region, but they're, again, not as pronounced as we see in other species. The major characteristic when you are keying these things out has to do with ketotaxy. So this is one where I was doing some research. You can kind of see that the Jenna here, it doesn't have nearly as pronounced as the orange cheeks as we see in Vicinia, but a little bit of orange there. Sometimes it goes a little further back, doesn't have an orange beard. But the ketotaxy, again, there are these 2 hairs. So you've got your ocelli here. We call these ocella bristles, ocella bristles right behind the ocelli, the simple eyes. And on either side of those ocella bristles are these 2 very prominent hairs. Very prominent bristles that are not found in other species. This is the way that you tell Calliphora latifrons from other things. These 2 big old bristles on the back of the head. Neat, huh? All right, so that is the way to tell the species. It isn't as common as other Calliphora, though. And we most commonly see it collected on excrement. We do see it on very, very decomposed tissues, but only in certain areas. And we don't have a lot of information about it, but it is out there. All right, so that's the genus Calliphora. You let me know if you have any questions.